Welcome, everybody, to the Property Management Strategist Show. As you know, I'm Stacey Salyer, your property management strategist, where I help property management business owners buy their competitor instead of build door by door. So welcome. I have the amazing Jen Ruelens with me, otherwise known as Hold It with PM Jen. We've been in the business the same amount of time, since 2004, long time. So basically we're in like midlife together.
That's exactly right. I've been counting as 22, but I need to start saying 20 plus when the numbers get up that high. People start doing reverse math.
I know. They're like, wait, you don't look that old. And I'm like, I know. Thank you. Started when I was 10. Well, welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And I would love to jump in.
I'm the Jennifer Ruelens, known online as Hold It with Jen. My mission is to help empower millennial women to buy and hold real estate to grow their generational wealth. But what I do day to day most often is be the owner and broker of my baby, One Focus Property Management, 600 doors, North Central PA, a larger company for NARPM on the larger end of the spectrum. And we're really proud of what we've built and developed there. Right now, I spend most of my time doing education and advocacy for investors and the property managers. I'm here talking to property managers about all the dilemmas we face.
We'll chat a little bit about property management, entrepreneurs, business owners, maybe especially female business owners. Thank you for jumping on. We'll talk about what you do when you are the business owner. You run a large business. You're still in the day-to-day to an extent, right? I mean, you're still owner broker. And while you may not be out showing property, you're still doing things like payroll and all that good stuff. You know, I had similar when I owned my PMC. I had exited out of most of the stuff, but I still did the payroll and new client acquisition like you.
End of your PMC time, our roles are similar. The last stalwarts of the finance stuff, right? Chief decision maker, only owner, but also the thing I contribute to the business is my sales. I bring in the new clients. That's what I do. So when I take a week's vacation, it's no big deal. I take 2 weeks. It gets a little funky with like, how's the Wi-Fi going to be where I'm going? 2 Thursdays ago, I had a normal day. I was at home. I ate Cobb salad with my husband for dinner, and it was getting to be close to bedtime. I started getting really bad pains in my abdomen. And within about 15 minutes, realized this was not a bellyache. I had to go to the ER, and within 12 hours had been life flighted to the regional medical center because I had an internal hernia. 18 inches of my intestines had escaped wherever they're to be kept. They escaped. 18 inches of my bowel escaped. And so it took 2 surgeries over the course of like 2.5 days. I was in the ICU for 3 days and then the regular hospital for another 4 or 5 days. And so all that's to say, it is now 2 weeks later. This is the first makeup I've had on in 2 weeks. I still can't drive. I still have 30 staples all along my abdomen. That is why I'm available in the middle of the day, because my schedule has been cleared, right? We just took everything off until NARPM because I am shockingly still going to the conference. Debated, if you will. I fought as I call them, my captors. They used to be my caregivers, but now they're my captors. My captors and I have negotiated a release treaty, not unlike President Trump, and I am going to Orlando. I had a day full of appointments the very next day. I have 15 employees I write payroll for. I am the signer on all the checks. And I was unconscious for days in a hospital. And I got to tell you, I'm fresh off the shock of waking up and like, what day is it? What happened? How long has it been? I feel the responsibility of the company very much. I'm very consumed and prepared for things like this. I've thought about it a lot. I'm going to deconstruct how this went to see if my plan was good enough. And yeah, that was a real shock. I took a lot of comfort in knowing that I'm well insured. I have entertained this possibility before after about 2 weeks. I knew that. I knew that after about 2 weeks, things would get weird, but I'm back in the business already. But you had something similar happen to you this spring out of nowhere.
For those who have joined us, a little housekeeping, there is a chat. Feel free to pop in, tell us where you're coming from, or ask questions. How do you still run your business when you have a life crisis, medical or other? And then how do you take that and learn from it so you can prepare for the future? Because I think sometimes, we'll think we have everything prepared and then we don't. We're like, oh, wait, we kind of forgot about these three things, maybe check signing. Back in the springtime, my husband and I went to pick up our new puppy, Vinny the Corgi, in Eastern Washington. I was driving. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I tend to be the driver. As we were coming down into the valley, I saw flashes of light. We also had the mountains, so I thought maybe there's some weird reflection. My eye kind of got all weird, and I look at my husband. I'm like, "Do you see that light? You see that?" And he's like, "No, I have no idea what you're talking about." So I go home, true Stacey fashion. I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure it's nothing. No big deal. I don't need to go to the ER." It just kind of kept getting worse. I thought, okay, I'll go to the ER. I'm sure it's no big deal. So I have my daughter drive me because we have the new puppy. We get there. Of course, the ER people are like, okay, this could be a stroke. This could be some other major thing. I actually got back pretty quick and they did all the testing. I've had such horrible eyesight since I was probably like 10 years old. And now that I'm 50, my eyes are 50 years old with bad eyesight. They just basically are myopic. So they just pulled on my retina. And my retina had tears in the back of my eye. It was basically detaching. If your retina detaches, that is not a good thing. You can actually go blind. So I got the treatment. I thankfully did not have to be life flighted, but if I didn't have somebody that could drive me, then I would have had to have somebody drive me to Seattle. I had to go to Harborview, which is our trauma center, the only on-call ophthalmologist. So I had emergency laser surgery. Lots of crazy stories from Harborview. That place is crazy. We're going to have to get into your prisoner escape story. I saw a bunch of, pretty much everybody there was handcuffed to beds because that's where they bring all the people that have been arrested for fights and stuff. Fascinating.
At that stage, you were doing PM strategist at that point,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you out of the business of being able to contribute?
So I had some webinars set up and had to have my assistant send out emails saying these have to be rescheduled. It took me out at least, I would say probably like 24 hours or so. More of it was the challenge of navigating the vision part of it. I had to deal with that for 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, you were very visually impaired, maybe?
Yeah, I had 2 laser surgeries, different days. And then I had to go in for a more extensive surgery where they had to go in on the backside and remove the gel that's in your eye and then basically like reattach the retina with an air bubble and all this stuff. So I really wasn't healed until the end of July.
That's very confronting. I feel like I was confronted with a life and death situation. I very much sympathize with people who need reasonable accommodations and modifications. You can become disabled any day. I'm walking with a wheelchair, or, I'm not today, but I have been walking with a walker, using wheelchairs, that kind of thing. I'm about to use a powered wheelchair for a whole week while we're in Orlando. I'm going to learn a lot about what that life is like. What if you survive, but your eyesight is not good enough to be counted on anymore? A huge change.
And I think the one thing people don't talk about is the mental gymnastics you go through as a business owner. We have business owner gymnastics every day. Like you can 1 hour at like 10 a.m. You can be like, yes, I am crushing it. I'm doing so good. And then noon, you're like, oh my God, like what is going on?
Make 10K at 10 a.m. and by noon you've lost 13 and you're like, Jesus, I can't keep up.
And so you have that to begin with. And then you have people depend on you because I have one team member. So you have people depending on you. And then even if you don't have a team, you probably have family or other people depending on you. I wasn't allowed to lift anything. I had to sleep sitting up for 2 months. Like I couldn't sleep flat because they're like, well, if you do this or that, your retina could fully detach. And then it's a whole different surgery and recovery. So just the mental part of it, not being able to even participate in a normal way in your lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. And you're used to probably as an entrepreneur being the one that can be counted on, that powers through. I'm a ton of energy, and not having it has been scary to those around me.
Mm-hmm.
Concern and caregiving. Everybody around me has felt a bit destabilized because I have been destabilized and I am a leader in a lot of the roles I have in my life, which is something I'm happy about and I love doing, but it shows everybody how dependent they kind of are on that. So I did debrief a little bit this last, because I'm a person who has the printed out instructions in a safe in my house. My husband and sister are legally empowered with the lawyers through the POAs and everything. So there's insurance, right? Down to like, they can get into my phone. You have to have your phone to run payroll, like 10 two-factor authentications. It's crazy. I've thought through all that. Now, Jessie, my director of operations, could have run payroll. She chose not to. When I insisted she bring it in, there's pictures of me looking fully nuts running payroll in the hospital. It's only like 15 minutes of clicking buttons. My assistant runs most of it. I just have to do approvals and transfer dollars. I kind of wish I had said, no, Jessie, you run it on Tuesday. And if for some reason you can't, bring that laptop into me and I'll run it. We have until Wednesday at noon to run it, and we do it weekly. In that debrief, I'd like to pressure test her running payroll, because that's the thing right now that if I'm not here, they're a little screwed. And we would, of course, never let an employee not go paid. So that is probably the thing. Other than that, the system really worked. The executive assistant controlled my schedule, controlled my email, and delivered messages. And because I'm not particular about who knows, it's been easier on them. They don't have to protect or make excuses or lie. They just say exactly what happened. And everybody's been really nice. But there have been 2 other surgeries I've had in the building of this business. I had a hysterectomy and a gastric bypass surgery. In both cases, I was not able to take hardly any time off due to how I had the company set up. I did not have this kind of support. The first time I simply didn't. The second time I did have support, but my primary support, my sister, was getting the same surgery on the same day as me. So we prepared in advance. What I didn't account for was my accounting manager quitting literally like 12 hours after I came out of surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. After this had been prepared for months, she, with no notice, quit.
Wow.
And I'm talking, we were down to like, she was the only one who could deposit a check or write a check or anything besides Jessie and I. And so I was back in the office way too soon. So this time I'm taking my time, but I am traveling to Orlando.
I feel like that's also kind of a personal goal. And that goes into the question I wanted to ask you, in your opinion. Do you think men would be as driven to get back into doing what they were doing?
The kind of people we are, the kind of people that when the doctor says, I need to stay in bed for 2 weeks, everybody's like, well, you better get a cage because she's going to break out. What might drive women more is that sense of responsibility to others. So the thing happens that might interrupt the business.
Right.
We consider how that's going to impact us, but probably first we consider all the people we owe obligation to. It is a crowd when I think about it, because there's 15 employees, members of my family, the 170 clients, the 600 units of tenants, the 80 vendors, people who are counting on me to do business in a good way. I take too much of that on. What do you think? Is that a gendered thing?
I don't know. That's why I wanted to ask you. Sometimes I feel like it might be, but then I also think maybe it's just that type A personality that's like, oh, I don't want to be knocked down. But then again, maybe the good girl, eldest daughter has always been that person that's taking care of others.
One thing would be how people treat the person we're talking about, right? Are the people surrounding relating to a man leader or a woman leader? What are the expectations on them? When I was in the hospital, they were assuming that I was more capable than I was in the moment because I was younger, maybe a little smarter, quicker with my wit than the other patients. And there would be this idea that I could or should do more. I had to be really honest with them. Like, no, I can't do that. That feels dangerous. I had to pace my recovery because they were pacing it faster than I should. I wonder, as people who follow leaders, when they follow a male leader in crisis versus a female leader, how do expectations differ?
I don't know.
I don't know. And I'm so glad. I mean, I don't have the complication almost all women have, which is children. Right. There were no children at home with like an inept dad trying to make tomato soup or something. I just had a guy making me tomato soup.
Yeah. So going back in time in 2007, I gave birth to my daughter, October 23rd. That is why I'm only going to be in Florida for a couple days because I got to get home to the mini. She's turning 18 on Thursday, a week from today. So I gave birth to her October 23rd, and Halloween, I came down with appendicitis. 8 days later, I'm on the phone with my midwife. I'm like, yeah, I have this pain. And I was crying. And she's like, okay.
Just after birth.
I know. She's like, you don't cry. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you should go to the ER. So I end up at the ER. Now, mind you, their dad, I'm obviously no longer with him, but he was that kind of guy. So I have this newborn. I have 2 toddlers at home. They're 18 months and 3.5 years old. 2 boys at home. I'm the breadwinner and the caregiver. And so I'm in the hospital, but I hadn't put the gown on yet. I'm changing the baby, doing her diaper while the guy's sitting there in the chair. Then a nurse comes in and I was like, oh, I need to use the restroom. And she's like, oh, it's really for patients only. And I'm like, I am the patient. And the look on her face, she was appalled. So it could also be maybe like who you're surrounding yourselves with as well. Because obviously that was a big eye-opening, like, okay, I can't even get surgery. I had surgery, but I was in and out. I was like, I got to go home. If I'm not home, I know what that mess is going to be.
I have to talk to my sister and see how things went while I was gone, but we've talked a lot since I've been out, and it seems like things have worked. Everybody's proven to be a right person, continues to show up as the right person. This would be a moment that would reveal itself.
Yeah. And so I guess that also boils down to making sure you have everything planned in writing. And like you said, all the passwords and everything. I have very similar, the living will, everything is spelled out. It's in my safe. It's with my attorney. Same with the passwords and all the stuff. And then who you surround yourself with is equally important.
If I had sneaky, devious people in my life, it would be dangerous to live with the kind of planning that I have. Like if I had a sneaky, devious partner or people in my company that I couldn't trust,
right,
it'd be risky and I'd have to do it differently. I don't have that issue in my life, thank God. But like a password manager, when I hear entrepreneurs don't have a password manager, I go, what are you doing? Because it's really risky to have duplicate passwords, to have things written down, to not be able to turn employees off and on when you need to, like all of that. Password managers clutch, plus documented processes.
Right.
I think what else was really probably just every single time something bad has happened and we've had an interruption, being willing to go back and go,
right,
what am I going to fix so that this goes better? Because it's a real problem. Do you have the same rule in Washington about being the broker of your business? Like if you were to be incapacitated or die, there's 10 days for them to replace you as broker or the business is delicensed?
I don't know that we have a timeline. I mean, we have the rule. So you have to have a designated broker. Out of all the training, I don't know if I've ever seen a specific timeline.
Maybe because I'm infatuated with the idea of this happening and preparing. When they told me it was 10 days, I was shocked. For years, my business partner was the other broker. So no problem. When I bought them out and they were no longer involved, my sister was getting her broker's license. And I went to a fellow NARPA member in Pennsylvania and said, ask you, almost like asking to take care of my children should something happen.
Right.
Here's the deal. If it happens and it's more than a year away from Jessie getting her brokers, you do it until we sell it. We'll compensate you. We didn't get into all the details. They agreed. I was so grateful. Jessie is now the associate broker. It protects everybody's jobs. It protects these tenants. I've seen a property manager get delicensed unexpectedly and shut everything down overnight. Have you ever seen anything like that happen?
I have, well, not necessarily in my market, but I know on a global.
Yeah. And you know who it hurts is all of the employees and the consumers. Those tenants, owners, and employees, that is devastating to them. Big time.
Yep. Yeah. In Washington, you can have multiple designated brokers. When I sold my company, I was a designated broker for Pure. So I was still involved on the ops side, even though I did acquisitions for them. I was the DB for Pure. And then I was also the DB for my company because I kept my real estate brokerage. So that's nice. It is really challenging in states where you can only have one designated broker per firm.
We just have designated an associate. So you're an associate, like there's one broker of record, then there's associates under them, and you just decide who goes up when that spot's open.
Yeah, if you have a managing broker, that's what they would call them. But a managing broker can only oversee one office. Your designated could be a designated of 5, 6, 10, 20, and even multiple companies.
Our brokers can do that across companies, but our salespeople can only hang at one.
Yeah, Washington's weird. You have broker, which is like salesperson agent, and then you have managing broker, designated broker, but it's the same license. At this point in time, since I merged with another real estate firm, I am a managing broker under their license. So no longer in charge of anybody. That is amazing.
It's good. That
Yeah.
is really good. Let me ask, you only have the one team member right now, it's remote.
Mhm.
So let's pretend what happened to me 2 weeks ago happens to you. Does your family know how to reach Charity?
Yep. They can get into my laptop. They can get into my phone.
Just because my sister was with me in the hospital, she's with me in the office, she was sending messages, making it all happen. She has the keys to the kingdom there. I didn't have to think about a thing, but if there wasn't a Jesse and it was Dave with me and it was just my Lindsay, my EA who's remote.
Your situation definitely reopened my eyes to where I need to be a little more detailed in this new property management real estate firm. I'm still building out processes. We do practice what we preach. We have written SOPs for a ton of things, but I probably need to be more detailed and put my children in charge of it. My husband is not the one that would be, it's not that he's incapable. It's just that he has his plumbing business. It's just not in his traits. Any of my three, but my eldest for sure would be great at just taking charge. Yeah. Eldest.
And it makes sense. Like you've reached the point in your life enough where they could handle it. This is a completely different business you have now, completely different stakeholders and things going on. I'm also trying to build a similar kind of business. And luckily, there's not really much money happening and I can do whatever I want. But it's starting to get some processes and things like that.
Yeah, and it is fun to build out that whole new thing because it is very different than property management. It's been fascinating to serve the property management leaders. And it's interesting to see vendors doing what I'm doing, but they haven't modified their business in the same way. They still run it like property management from a marketing standpoint, which I find fascinating because you're not that anymore.
You really embrace marketing. You really seem to enjoy learning about it and doing it. And I can empathize with those property managers. Anything I do that is any good is unique and weird and just applies to me. You couldn't go copy it. That's because it's me. I really don't know what I'm doing. And I don't even care to learn. I just want to do the thing I want to do. I empathize with those property managers who feel like, well, this worked for the last 20 years. Maybe it'll work on this new thing.
I do enjoy it. And I do consume massive podcasts, as you know, every now and then I'll send you one.
Most of the consultants, do they mostly come from the operator space, like they were previous PMC operators? Or do you see people coming from outside and doing that coaching, consulting from outside the industry for us?
Both. So I would say on the operations piece of it, I can think of two that are like never owned a PMC at all. Well, actually, no, three. I mean, a lot of the implementers, I would say, the people that are, if you hire someone and they're like, oh, put my lead simple together.
Because those people are coming in with a special set of skills and tech skills that they learned as a service to this industry and then went independent. Is that the vibe?
Yeah, that's the vibe I get. I mean, I think most business owners probably aren't coming in that way as an implementer because they weren't the implementer in their business. Most business owners are coming in more like, hey, this is what I know. This is my experience. Let me help you in your journey if this is your journey. Mine is helping prepare people's operations so that they can add 200 doors at one time versus just 10.
Do you think much of that's going to be going on for the next 5 years, just given like economic climate, cost of capital? Like, do you think M&A, I know you tell me it's still going on, you just don't hear about it.
I don't know with the big players, when you're talking about cost of capital, my ideal client is not like the Evernest or the Pure. They know what they're doing, right? They have teams. My ideal client is that smaller mid-sized operator who wants to grow through acquisition. Instead of 10 doors every month or 5 doors every month, why don't you acquire your neighbor down the street who is shutting his business down because he's aging out? He has a great book of business. He is well liked in the community. He just wants to retire. So buy his 100 doors, buy his 150, buy the 200. And that you really don't necessarily need capital for, because that type of seller isn't looking for all the money up front, because that will usually screw them tax-wise.
Right.
So you can get owner financing. I mean, so there's a lot of creative ways to do it. And that's what I'm here for.
When we bought the company, how many years ago was that? 2017. So it's been about 8 years. It was on payments to the owner over maybe 4 years. But yeah, I do not rate that acquisition as a pleasurable experience. I'm sure it all pans out in the wash, but I wish I went to that market and just took the business. I don't know if that's how it would have panned out, but I was not prepared. I went from just 250 to 750 doors, from like 2 employees to 7 overnight.
Right. So I think if you had someone like me to talk to you before, the biggest thing is preparing before you even come across the deal. And honestly, most of us don't do that. I didn't necessarily prepare. I came across this deal. The guy down the road is selling. He's aging out. He just wants owner financing. I did some preparation, but I learned a lot. I'm hoping I can work with other people to make it so that it isn't as a horrible experience.
If someone's sitting here going, it's October, by the end of 26, I want to acquire a company and double my size. Do they have enough time to get ready, source, and execute a deal?
I think so, if they're serious about it. Yeah.
How long would they prep before they?
It depends on their current operations. You're talking about somebody who's open-minded, willing to grow and listen, and willing to move fast and do the legwork. If they're not running their current operation pretty well, then that might be a challenge. But if they're running well, they have a good PMS system, everything documented or in some sort of Monday.com or Lead Simple or Apply or whatever, they're running processes through that. They have a team, they're managing a team. They have like some sort of tech stack. Yeah, I think they could be prepared, and they just need to be open-minded to change.
We're at the conference next week. And then we're not going to be talking about M&A. We're going to be talking about AI.
Yes.
Obviously, we can't talk about M&A anymore. It's old news, but we're going to talk about AI. But let's pretend somebody said, hey, who wants to buy a company? And people raise their hands. If you had all those people in front of you that raised their hands, how many of them do you think would raise their hands and say, yes, Stacey, I've never acquired a company before. Of the ones who've never acquired a company before, agree that they should do some preliminary work on their own business?
I would say, honestly, if they're truly serious, probably the majority of them.
They're that self-aware, that would be a good step.
That's a good point. I mean, maybe 50-50 about the self-awareness. But again, that would be me trying to explain like, hey, this is like painfully, if you're here, but you want to be here, then.
I wasn't scared of managing 750 doors. I had managed 500 doors before, multifamily. It wasn't the number of doors. It wasn't even the number of employees. I'd had 21 employees before, but as an employee of a company, not as the owner broker. I was very confident in how I was running it, thought it would translate, and either nobody got my eye enough to make me cautious, but if just that question were put to me in that scenario, I don't think I would have raised my hand. I almost was like, I was unprepared. I didn't understand. I very quickly came to Jesus on my naivete. I really did. I got help. I reached out and got help, and NARPM was there for me. I found people back then, and everything's glorious because of it. Traction happened for me. That was what worked for me. But I wonder, in terms of you trying to get the attention of people to go, hey, friend, you've got this goal and I want you to accomplish it. And I'm here to tell you that you're probably not ready unless you do this thing. Like, that's a tough message to get across.
Yeah, I think though it's approaching it, a little bit like that, but more about, let me teach you how you can go acquire, because that is the sexy part. People want to know, how do I go buy the guy down the street? The operations is.
You don't lead with homework of it all.
No, because nobody wants to do that. That's not sexy. But what is sexy is, hey, I acquired over 350 doors in the start of COVID, owner financed. I can teach you how to do that. Not only that, I've had hundreds of conversations around the United States. I'm the only consultant that has done that. I can tell you what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. I can literally tell you how to set up your CRM. I can give you scripts. I closed almost 1,000 door companies on cold calls. So that is the second.
Somebody, hey Jen, it's Stace. And I was like, what are you calling about? And then it ended with me handing you my whole company for a check.
Yeah.
Careful if Stacey calls you.
I was also the only woman on the team and had the best stats. So there is something to be said for that as well.
Tell me about a cold call. You call a broker owner like me on behalf of a large acquirer, right? But what happens on that call?
Well, number one, I don't ask them like, hey, I'm Stacey. I'm looking to buy property management companies. Do you want to sell to me? I don't lead that way. I lead on relationship-based conversations. I always had lists of who I was going to call, find out as much as I could about their company, about them, and lead with something around that.
So if I have a company in my neighborhood, a company in my market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, well, I'd like to acquire. I don't want to hire a BDM. But I'd like to grow my business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hearing you say I should research them. I should learn as much as I can about them and their business, and then try to build a relationship, not about, so, hi, Joe, property manager next town over. It's Jen. Do you want to have lunch, please?
Yes, maybe not that awkward.
I don't mean to push you, but I'm serious. If I want to buy another company, am I going to write a letter, call them up?
Don't write a letter. I don't think letters
Right.
work. Emails don't necessarily work either. I believe in phone calls face-to-face. Face-to-face, of course, is always the best. And then utilizing resources in your community. So talking to your CPAs in your community, talking to your landlord, tenant law attorneys. They're always going to know who is looking to exit before probably anybody else. If you can get a warm intro, that's amazing. But even if you can't, maybe if they're okay, like name dropping, at least you have intel. They're probably going to retire in a couple of years. These are long games. It's not like selling a pair of jeans to somebody. This is a long game relationship deal. You have to get in the door, start the conversation, build the relationship. It's very much like dating. Most people don't get married after a month of meeting someone. They might 6 months or 6 years, whatever. But, usually you can have an idea of where it's going to go.
That resonates with the way my acquisition went, because we wanted to make a move into that market. And 2012, I started the business. 5 years in, we acquired. Maybe 2 years into the business, 3 years before we acquired, we made a round of asks in that market. And there was only like 3 or 4 to even talk to. One talked to us, and we did not get to the closing table on that. An IRS audit intervened, and that is still ongoing. They operate all these years later. We had made a round of asks, and this other company that we would have really liked wasn't interested. The person who built their property management business was interested in working for me. Their employer wasn't aware. And because I wasn't able to buy a company, I was going to rent an office, hang a shingle, do a marketing campaign, and do what I'd done in Williamsport, which was get to 100 doors in 6 months. I thought, no problem, this will be no big deal, but I need someone to work it. So I had several conversations with this property manager. I was writing the offer letter. Like we had discussed, I said, expect something from me in the next day or two. I'm typing it. And my business partner called me and said, hey, I think maybe our target has leaked because they called and are now willing to talk about selling. That isn't what happened. It was just really coincidence. That seller was ready to sell at the exact time we were going to kind of poach his person anyway. So we called the property manager back and we're like, sorry to be weird, but can't offer you the job right now. And we still really like you. You didn't do anything. Can't talk about it. And they put things together, and then we bought that company. That was probably a total of 3 years from we want to be there till we're there with a 500 door company. I think the money is like the easiest part of that.
Oh, yeah, that is, honestly. That is not even.
I think that day I barfed at that loan closing at that bank. I mean, not on the table or anything in the bathroom, but it was a rough day for me to sign that big loan. Mortgages were one thing. At least you have the property to back it up. This was just a lot of goodwill on that balance sheet. Property management companies, there ain't a lot of assets. It's just these contracts.
Right. Just the contracts. Yep. And then hopefully the goodwill of the seller. It just boils down to building relationships in your community and letting people know what your intentions are.
So much suspicion of our intentions with this purchase. We literally changed the logo on the sign and it was the same people. I looked the exact same. It wasn't even like we were different colors or anything, spoke different languages. I looked and sounded just like the people they had there. And the distrust was really offensive to me personally. I do not care for being distrusted. And I had to get over that. I had to figure that out in my own head.
Yes, I know it's tough, but yeah, I'm excited. Honestly, so far it's been pretty well received and
it's very needed.
Yeah.
It's extremely needed out there. It's not that women are naturally disadvantaged. We're societally disadvantaged. If you're a woman, the conversations you're a part of are never about business. It's not normalized for us to talk about that in our social relationships, where it is very normalized for men. They're getting educated. They're getting access in all of these places. We think it's like the golf course and all that, and it is, but it's so much more than that. I think about it as the dinner party. You know, if we were 4 couples that got together, it would end up with us ladies in the kitchen chatting and the men in the garage or in the living room watching the game. This is America. This is how men and women work. But when they do talk, they're going to talk about something that you and I are going to have to pay money to get access to.
I will tell you how many times I left the female conversations and I went over to the guy conversations because that's where I wanted to be and what I wanted to talk about. I am a mom of 3. I was like, I'm done talking about what y'all are feeding your kids or whatever. I love business. And sometimes it wasn't well received. I was a single mom for many years. So I think a lot of women thought I wanted their husbands. No, I don't want your husband. But what I would love is to chat business and maybe get a contact and build my reputation as a business leader versus just talking about shopping and feeding and whatever.
Something that quite frankly came with getting married. The relationships I have since I've had my husband in my life with other men are so not charged with that. And I love that. I love my husband being there. He's not really a contributor to those conversations. He asked me afterward what we're talking about, and that's fine. We call them river lot parties. I get to hang out in the men's chairs because I'm a non-issue.
Right.
If I were a single woman, and that just restricts access.
Yep.
I would love to talk about this stuff with the girls, but even the girls who are doing it don't seem to enjoy talking about it personally. Like you and I like talking about it. We know women in our industry who would rather talk about other things. That's where their comfort level is. And God bless, but there has to be a place for us.
Yes, we are going to make a place.
How long were you single between your 2 husbands?
I had boyfriends.
Like awful business with all of that and not having just that. Yeah. Well, it just gives you honestly like credibility. People stop asking questions about you when you're like, this is my husband, Dave. It's like, oh, great. I noticed a big difference when I started introducing him as Dave. I was 31 when I got married, I think. Okay. So I had time in business and doing my MBA to not be partnered and then to be partnered and just see how people reacted differently. It's a challenge the men do not.
No, they don't have that challenge. So I think that's a bummer for us, but I just kept forging forward. And if I didn't get invited back to parties, I didn't get invited back, whatever. A lot of the stuff that I did socially was auctions and events. I wasn't necessarily bound to the normal society rules as far as get-togethers because you can bounce around a room and talk to other business leaders. And now with my husband, he owns his plumbing company. He always invites me when there's people that want to take him to lunch. I just sit there and yammer on about business. It's like I'm creating my own little mastermind here, this little lunch. Eric is always like, oh, I'm so glad you went with me because he hates talking. He's super introvert. And he's like, he doesn't care about any of that. He knows I just will eat it up. I don't even have to eat lunch.
So when the supply guy wants to take him out to lunch, he's like, you got to bring my wife, Stacey, so you have someone to talk about.
Pretty much. Yeah. So we went.
I'd go for wings and talk business. Sure.
Yeah. I'll talk. Yeah. In fact, we did. The owner of the big supply house in 9 different states. I got the full run of their whole business. It's a legacy business. I was like, oh, tell me more about your operations. I will nerd out.
What are you looking forward to next week?
Well, I'll be in Florida for a couple days. So I look forward to seeing you on your motorized
Scoot.
wheelchair, or is it a scooter? You're gonna have a basket.
It's going to have a basket on the back. It has a cup holder. I paid extra. And
Okay.
it has a seat, like an office chair seat, and it's on a scooter. So no, it's not like a wheelchair. It's like what you would use in a grocery store, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never used one before, but I got the most capacity because I want my sister to be able to ride on it with me. She is not committed to that, but this way I'm not leaving her in the dust because she's coming with me. She's accompanying me to Orlando. I am looking forward to the Harry Potter party, the
Yes.
Appfolio Second Nature Harry Potter party.
I'm Ravenclaw. Yeah.
Those smart or what? Which
Yeah.
one was Harry? Wasn't Ravenclaw.
He's Gryffindor. Yeah.
Slytherin were the sneaky ones.
Yeah. Slytherin. Yeah. And then Hufflepuff, but I'm a Ravenclaw. So the quiz tells me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I have not gotten any special clothes. I have been seeing the invites like Caribbean attire. Y'all will be just happy that I'm there with my loose fitting dresses on.
Yeah. I'll wear my Ravenclaw t-shirt and probably a pair of jeans or something.
I'm curious about the Harry Potter world. I haven't been to a theme park in a very long time.
I took my kids to the one in California one Christmas. That was their Christmas gift. I love Harry Potter. I've read all the books, all the movies. I'm a nerd. I'm not as diehard as probably some people, but I'm pretty diehard.
I haven't read a book of those in like 25 years, and I haven't watched the movies, but I am curious about all of it, and that they have so many of them and that they're so successful. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the speakers and seeing what everybody's talking about. I love gossip. I want to see the vendor hall because I haven't been to a national convention in like 18 months, maybe 2 years. And this stuff is changing. How many more AI solutions are there going to be that I don't even recognize? The last time I went, I was surprised how many more new global talent providers there were. This is going up because I got named a leading woman in property management. I get to do a little talk with Blanket. We'll do a recorded podcast or something for the Women's Council of Property Managers and Blanket. I'm a big supporter of the Women's Council and all that they're doing.
I know. I'm excited to see you, but I have to bounce because I have a meeting. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you, Bonnie, for joining us and everybody else that joined us. We will see you all again next time. This recording will come out, but we're probably a couple weeks out with our workload. Our community is reopening tomorrow. Doors open tomorrow.
The best deal in town.
It is $97 a month. All right. See you all soon.